Hi, everyone, and welcome to another aec+tech talk. This one is about moving to the cloud and getting ready for AI. My name is Niknaz, and I'm very excited you are joining us today. These talks are organized by aec+tech. aec+tech.com is a platform and a database and a community that features the latest and greatest tools and technologies in the AEC space. So as we know, more and more architects, engineers, and contractors are moving their data to the cloud, but a lot of teams are still asking, where do we start? What should we do first? How do we do it? How do we keep our data secure? How do we keep our data protected while enabling AI? This session is designed to give you practical answers, lessons learned, and ideas you can take back to your own practice. Today, we are joined by Justin Hiles, Chief Information Officer at VLK Architects, and Aaron Vorwerk, AC Practice Leader at Egnyte. Justin and Aaron, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Of course. So we will hear a real-world story about VLK Architects' cloud journey, why they made the shift, and how it has changed the way they manage files, data, and risk. We will also learn how Egnyte's platform supports secure collaboration, governance, and AI readiness for growing firms. If you have any questions for our speakers, please post them in the LinkedIn or YouTube chat box, and we'll ask them from our speakers. This event will be recorded and saved on our aec+tech YouTube channel. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Aaron.
Hi, everyone. Aaron Vorwerk here. For those who don't know me, I lead go-to-market efforts for the architecture segment at Egnyte. I'm excited to be here. Justin represents one of our customers, but also a friend from Fort Worth, Texas. We've been in practice together in various roles, I guess, for the last 20 plus years. And my job took a technology bent a long time ago, and Justin's has sort of evolved into a very technology-focused role over time as well. So thanks for being here. It should be a good conversation. It's really about a firm's story, not about Egnyte so much. So with that, Justin, I'll hand it off to you.
Yeah, thanks, Aaron. Like Aaron, I'm a trained architect, but became involved in technology at VLK many years ago, and have been our CIO for the last few years. VLK is headquartered in Fort Worth, and we are primarily an education architecture firm with 5 offices in Texas and 1 in Arlington, Virginia, and recently named number 2 largest education design firm in the nation by BD+C. Our primary goal is service to our clients and delivering the highest level of design to our clients that meets their needs versus meeting our needs. So I'll touch a little bit on that as we talk about our journey. So with that, I'll jump right into our cloud journey. So we started probably about a little over 6 years ago, and I think probably with a lot of architecture firms, with the migration to BIM 360, we were finding it more and more difficult to collaborate amongst all of our offices and with the large Revit files, and BIM 360 offered that collaboration to work seamlessly across offices on the same models, but also invite our consultants into those models as well and have real-time access to the project data. It really proved something to us that the cloud wasn't just viable for large files, but it really made collaboration on those files possible. That early experience gave us confidence that moving to the cloud can handle the demands of our practice. So a few years later, we were faced with the decision of replacing our on-prem server infrastructure with basically a similar solution, or to make the decision to migrate to the cloud. Our decision primarily revolved around that collaboration choice with that BIM 360 really proved to us. And it opened up a lot of other things, but we evaluated a few platforms, and Egnyte really aligned with what we were looking for. Collaboration tools built around our data, security that met our liability standards, as well as our client data requirements. The ease of use was essential for us, and that was a high mark for Egnyte. And really, I think one of the biggest things was their values matched our values. Customer service to them and innovation to Egnyte align with our customer service bias and our innovation goals. And we've been with Egnyte for a little over 4 years now, and their customer service is unmatched in the software industry. So one of the cool features that Egnyte had that really helped us moving into the cloud, was when we turned the cloud on and went from our on-prem to cloud, no one in our office noticed. And what I mean by that is when they went to Windows Explorer and went to the K drive, it was the K drive, both on-prem or with Egnyte. The difference was we had turned on all of these additional capabilities in the background that they didn't know about, and we started to train them on. So that seamless transition was crucial for adoption, but also not interrupting any daily work or fundamentally changing our infrastructure. When we started with Egnyte and kind of led up to that flipping the switch, access control and searchability were two of the key things that we focused on. So basically reorganizing our file structure to make sure that the user group access, ensure the right people have the right access to the right data. It wasn't very much different than what we had operated previously, but managing it on the cloud side was so much easier. It gave admins within the firm access to manage that and not relying solely on our IT guys. And then searchability, structuring our data in a way that anybody from any project team could find the data they were looking for without having to have different folder structures for different project teams. Those were two things that really, again, were key things as we launched Egnyte. So early, again, the big thing, search improvements, going from a Windows Explorer environment where you get the green bar when you're trying to search this entire server or search even large folders. Egnyte, you can do that in seconds. Search the entire server, leverage their AI search features, and then sharing and collaboration. No more emailing large file links or managing FTP sites, personal cloud sites. We had a lot of people that would have their own personal Dropbox account or Box account or something like that, move a file from our server, and then share a link to that. Now our data is in multiple places or not secure. So having it in one place that we can do all of those things was really crucial. And then insights into our data. So previously on our on-prem server, we knew how much data we had. We really didn't know what that meant. And so we were really able with Egnyte to really see kind of how our data was being used, where bottlenecks were, who needed access to what, things like that. And then lastly, kind of wrapping up this section, opening 3 offices since we've launched Egnyte. Instead of now having to put a full network infrastructure, server, VPN, all of this stuff, all this infrastructure in an office, basically in a couple days, we can have a firewall, a switch, and flip the switch, the internet's on, and we're working just the same as we are at any other office. So the speed to operation was transformative for us. And the infrastructure cost is now proving out to be that moving to the cloud is providing that ROI that we expected. So moving to the cloud obviously provided all these goals, and we knew it was the thing to do at the time to prep us for AI. Now here 4 years later, we really didn't fully anticipate or appreciate how much this cloud migration and data restructuring was preparing us, but it's really proven that out. So I'd like to turn it over to Aaron, let him give some Egnyte platform overview insights, and then we can talk more about how we've leveraged those capabilities.
Yeah, and I think I didn't advance the slide earlier as you were talking about some of this, but I appreciate the comments about we have so many firms we see today are focused on M&A as a growth strategy, especially in the engineering sector. And this idea of just turning on another office very easily, being able to handle that with, all of your permissions pre-configured, the various user roles pre-configured, the structures for file folders and so on, is really valuable in that situation too. But as you've grown, I'm glad to hear that we've grown with you. The other things is, that it was interesting to hear that you sort of entered the cloud from the BIM 360 from like a project specific or a very specific workflow point of view. Whereas some companies, enter from IT first, right? And then it's sort of driven by in different directions at times. And one of the things we've really been focusing on lately, because we've obviously always been a horizontal company, I'll talk about that in a second, but is really talking to personas, the design technology leadership, the construction technology leaders, about how this makes workflows make better sense, right? How we enable from more of a project specific or just a design application aware kind of perspective, as opposed to just the sort of horizontal IT business value. We're messaging differently, I guess you could say. And the other thing I thought of is the seamless part you talked about, which is great. There's a cost to that too. We find that a lot of companies move to Egnyte. You said the map letter drives are all the same. Now there's no need to have like geo boundaries and things like this, although sometimes those are preserved just so that everything looks familiar. But then companies are happy and they don't necessarily look at all the vertical capabilities. They just, now you may have to talk about this a little bit more later, but the user education to actually get them to click the next button is sometimes the biggest hurdle. So quickly about Egnyte, for those who don't know on the call, we're based on three kind of main pillars, or we're built around three main pillars. One of those is around collaboration, and that's both the file storage and sharing piece, but also the multi-office collaboration. So you can think of, we started about the same time, for example, as Dropbox and Box a couple of years before Google Drive. We were never a consumer-oriented freemium software. We were always an enterprise software, which in 2007 was pretty novel, moving firms to the cloud. But as a result, companies all around the world use us for that purpose, and in all sectors. NASDAQ runs on Egnyte, Red Bull, BioNTech, Balfour Beatty. Pick your sector, your segment on 7 continents. 22,000 plus companies are running on Egnyte, and some of those are AEC. Thousands of those are AEC, but some of those were by accident. We didn't really even invest in the AEC specific capabilities until around 2021. That's when we sort of built a vertical around that, and we're growing quite quickly actually in AEC now. But the collaboration piece, that's sort of the starting point, right? Being able to connect folks, as Justin talked about before. The second pillar, if you will, is intelligence, and we'll talk more about this later. But we are deep into intelligence around data, and in fact, have used AI for that purpose to classify data for 12 plus years now, since 2013. Again, I'll talk about that more later. But as the industry has evolved, right? So there was a time when the cloud was foreign for businesses, and maybe 5 years ago even we were still kind of dabbling in it. But as that's matured and companies have moved more wholesale into the cloud, and as I guess you could say intelligence has become more mainstream use with the advent of ChatGPT and LLMs becoming popular among end users worldwide for any purpose. That has also led to us bringing some of our capabilities to the front of house too for AI, whereas in the past they would have sort of been working behind the scenes. But we have deep capabilities there. And then the third pillar is really around governance, and it's more than that. It's governance plus cybersecurity. It's really ensuring data is used by the right personas at the right time for the right reasons. And that requires a lot of behind the scenes work. And again, we've been using AI for that purpose for a long time. So those second two pillars are closely related. But all of this is built on one platform. It makes us fairly unique, actually, because these are things you might go and buy independently traditionally, and there really aren't any direct competitors that have the breadth of what Egnyte sort of offers as one platform, one experience, one user interface, one user experience across the board. And that also allows us to do some pretty interesting things with data. We also speak AEC, but we'll talk more about that here in a bit. There are tenets of this that really work well for AEC firms. I could be showing this slide about any kind of business, but in AEC, because we're highly intensely collaborative and because we work with large files, some of these things, and Justin already pointed out a couple of them, are specifically good things for AEC. One is the idea of having one global office, right? Go anywhere in the world, work on the same drive letters without a VPN, just like you're sitting in the office, Texas, Dubai, whatever, right? So that's almost an expectation we have today, but to do that across your whole file server is not always, a possibility. It is with Egnyte. The second is that we speak AEC. So I say that because while we are not, an Autodesk or a Procore or built as a project delivery mechanism for AEC, the way those tools are, we understand and can organize data around projects. We integrate with 40-something different AEC specific applications, hundreds of business applications. So that makes us fairly unique among IT cloud providers. We, as I've mentioned before, really have a deep intelligence pillar and the governance pillar. So those four things together really are all strong needs of AEC firms right now. And as I was kind of saying a minute ago, I think the acceptance of the cloud, mainstream acceptance, this idea that we're all exploring intelligence and automation and all the things that come with it, and these even growing awareness around cybersecurity and threats and stuff, all of those have come together to a place that Egnyte was sitting all along. So it's like the market has kind of moved in line with what we provide. So I'll hand it back over to Justin to talk about what he's done and VLK has done post moving to Egnyte.
Thanks, Aaron. Yeah, now that you understand kind of what Egnyte can do, I'm going to share with you kind of how we put those features to get to put them to work at VLK, primarily around our data and AI strategies. So one of our big kind of foundational things that we set out a couple of years ago when we started looking at AI and kind of how we wanted to navigate those kind of AI waters. Like I mentioned before, quality is number one to us. And so when we were looking at AI, we wanted to kind of have a philosophy within the firm as people were adopting it, that quality is number one. It is not about doing less work. It's about freeing up time to do higher value work. And so if we're just saving time just to save time, then that's not meeting our goal. Better design, better client service, better problem solving. Those are the things we want our team spending time on, not the kind of mundane tasks that AI can do for us. So this cloud infrastructure makes this possible, and Egnyte makes this possible because AI needs good data. Egnyte gives us that foundation. So the other core tenet besides quality is we wanted closed, secure AI infrastructure that worked with our data. So Egnyte is actually the second kind of AI platform that we've implemented. The first was a platform that helps with Revit modeling, but it leveraged only VLK standards, drawing standards, modeling standards, and used our models and published PDFs to learn and train the model on how it was producing. Working with only our data doesn't eliminate, but helps prevent hallucinations. Easy for me to say. we don't want AI making up information that sounds plausible but is wrong. We want it to be accurate. Obviously, we still want our people to bring the critical thinking, but the better the data, the fewer hallucinate. I'm not going to say that word again. Fewer errors. So AI or Egnyte brings these AI tools to our data rather than us making us send our data to the external AI tools. And so the difference being no data is leaving our secure environment, no hallucinations. I don't know why I put this in my script. Hallucinations from random internet sources, complete audit trail, and results that we can trust and verify. And so Aaron mentioned integrations. So one of the great integrations that we've done early on, and this was before we even turned AI on, was our project information management system. So Egnyte seamlessly allowed us to, everything we did in our project information management software, all of that data is transferred right into the project folder in Egnyte. And so that integration meant every transmittal, every file, every email, basically anything that was done in that software was right into the project folder in Egnyte. Meant seamless searching. So people were, no matter what platform people were working on, they could go to the Egnyte project folder and search anything on project communications. AI can access the complete project context. And then our Egnyte offered the automated archiving and retention policies that we could apply to the complete project record, not just things that were saved in Egnyte. And so now we have data that's coming from multiple sources, going to one spot, being archived, retained per our license requirements. And that, again, transformational for us, being in the cloud and having those integrations. So I mentioned before kind of searching faster. I'm sure everybody, when they are looking for something, they usually send the broadcast email out to the people they think would know it, or just to the whole office. They wait and wait for, and hopefully somebody will answer it. They may search, they may try to navigate where they are. With Egnyte and the AI-powered search, you can basically type in your question, it will find relevant files, links to files, and it will also provide an AI response. And because all of our project data is saved in Egnyte, we're able to leverage searching multiple sources and not just things that people are using the server for. So it's not just convenience, it's not just faster, but it's better information, institutional knowledge becoming accessible, and it's not requiring individual team members to remember things or remember where things are filed. It's there, and Egnyte can access it. Next was governance. So audit trail capabilities that Egnyte provides, I think, is one of the key things that has been revolutionary for us. Obviously, there's a lot of other secure and governed features within Egnyte, but some examples where the audit trails have helped us, catching accidental file movements before they became problems, reconstructing decision-making when clients ask, why do we do it this way? Correcting mistakes quickly because we can see exactly what happened. Getting alerts for compliance with our standards or data exfiltration. So all of those things may sound restrictive, but it's really protecting us. It's protecting our data. It allows the people that need to know when something's happening. It lets them know when it's happening so they can take action on it. It allows us to move fast because we know we can recover if something goes wrong. So moving into kind of our AI stack, obviously Egnyte is a big part of that. It allows for the data search, insights, analysis across projects. We also leverage a couple other platforms, Microsoft Copilot, like I said, a couple design tools that we use. But Egnyte is really the platform that is available to everybody, and everybody in the firm can use it, and it gives them the insights they need to do their job better and provide better quality service to our clients. And these work because our data is clean, it's structured, it's accessible, and it's in one place. So the cloud migration wasn't just about storage, it was about creating an intelligent data platform that could power these capabilities. So lastly, I'll talk about kind of our adoption rate. So we've been pretty good about people using it. Obviously, we have people that use it every day, multiple times a day. There's other people that use it just for the AI search or just for certain tasks throughout the week. But there's really, once people kind of see the power of the AI and see what the results can be, it also helps them like realize, man, I do need to put my data in the right place so that I can get better results. And so all of those things are helping us with adoption. And so I'll kind of transition back to Aaron here. But these capabilities, the intelligence, governance, automation, they're all built on this platform, Egnyte, that Aaron described. And so I want to turn it back over to him. He can kind of dive deeper into the Egnyte's intelligence and governance features and kind of how they work.
Yeah, thanks, Justin. I was thinking about the example of like audit tracking and accidents. One of the examples I hear a lot from our solutions engineers that I can personally relate to is when you're like dragging something in Windows Explorer and accidentally dropped it somewhere, and how hard that might be to recover if you didn't, just have something telling you where it was, or centralized trash. If you couldn't, these are basic IT things, but like if you can't manage it, then it hurts. Yeah. So like being able to undo accidents, undo deletion, undo, and in fact, having users self-serve that as opposed to like filing a ticket, just
correct.
The back end waste inside of a firm when that's not possible is, frustrating. So yeah, I can relate to that one. I love the adoption rate though. Of course, everyone's using AI tools of some sort, right? And I remember, I don't know, a year or two ago when Reba did a survey of British architecture firms that said like 40% have AI adoption. And it's like, you mean 40% know about it, right? It's like 100% are using AI somewhere in their practice. And if you don't know, then obviously you have shadow AI. But to be able to intentionally drive adoption at 80% on the features you're trying to get staff to use, that's really something to be proud of. We've been doing AI a long time. I mentioned that earlier. And so just to walk everyone through in a real short form, kind of what that journey looks like and how much you can only imagine from the few bullets I'll share, like how deep this really goes. But in 2013, when we started incorporating AI at Egnyte, and there's a good blog post by our CEO about this, but we started using machine learning and natural language processing back then to classify data for the first time. And so this is seeing data coming in like PII or financial information or a number of other categories, automatically identifying that, adding metadata tags to that, and then being able to use those metadata tags to drive policy. So to apply policies and therefore, achieve compliance. So that's starting around 2013 when that rolled out. And that's a long tail thing. Like that is a huge thing into and unto itself because it, impacts everything else, right? But this matured, and then things like deep learning were added and so on. And we moved into being able to prevent data that's already been, identified as sensitive or needing to be handled in a certain way, being accidentally or purposefully exposed in a way that's inconsistent with that. So as opposed to just moving data where you want it to be, preventing data from being moved where it shouldn't be. So preventing actual accidental loss, but also behavioral detection. That could be a user internally downloading 500 files when they don't normally do that. It could be something coming or it could be an external actor that's trying to change the timestamps on a bunch of files, proactive, preventative ransomware detection, things like that. So behavioral detection, what we lovingly call ROTS, the redundant, obsolete, and trivial information that's in everyone's data set, that's not even possible to find in a traditional file server or on a SharePoint or something, but that we proactively search for, empty files, redundant files, things like that. Because we're humans and we save stuff over and over again in multiple places, right? And then things like data access optimization. This is a huge topic because it impacts a lot of things, but as Justin talked about, our search generally works. It's semantic and it's been that way for a long time. And so being able to find things is one piece of that, but another piece of that is the way that we cache things. Essentially because we're a cloud master, Egnyte intelligently behind the scenes is always finding the fastest path between the user and the data, the cloud. If a local hybrid appliance is used, an optional appliance is used to accelerate data, but that's clogged, without the user or anyone else knowing, it'll just send the user directly to the cloud if that's the fastest path. And in fact, for a long time now, we've pre-cached information that's being accessed frequently or that is likely the next in line piece of information that a user is looking for based on, trends. So AI is working to optimize those things at all times and has been doing so for a long time. Next, sort of the third wave was 2019-ish era. This is where things start to get really smart. So now, and this is not just EEC specific. This is, again, broadly, think about your whole business organization or any business for that matter. Document types, like the beginning of recognition of different types of documents. That's a contract, that's a model, that's, like being able to understand through AI what those things are, not just by file names or the extensions. And then we introduced self-training. They're really self-fine-tuning tools, trainable classifiers, because every customer of Egnyte gets a fully trained AI instance that's private tenant for themselves, and it's been trained, obviously, before it was ever released, but you can fine-tune this to your documents to get better results, things like that more quickly. That came out around 2019. It's been enhanced since then. And then we get to this whole wave we're in maybe now. It might be hard to even define because things are accelerating so fast, but we started to produce end user facing tools. A lot of this was all behind the scenes before, and it made the platform work well and seem easy, but wasn't really something an end user would engage with directly so much, more for admins. So this changed. The world changed. So even at the lowest level of Egnyte, you can select up to 10 documents and ask questions conversationally through LLM chat with it. For like a little bit more advanced capabilities, knowledge bases, drop up to 10,000 files in a folder or set of folders and define that as a knowledge base. So this is my HR knowledge base. I'm going to ask myself how much I can reimburse myself from my HSA for a certain type of, situation. Or maybe it's a project specific knowledge base and I drop OSHA and local code amendments and the contract and specs, the execution plan, whatever in there. And I start asking any questions I want about that project. This respects the individual user's permissions too. Like this, what's my CEO's salary? I'm sorry, I don't have access to that information. Of course it has access to that information. You just don't have access to that information. And then prompt libraries. I mean, prompting was a big thing for a while. We have a prompt wizard so that it will suggest a better way to prompt when you put your prompt in and ask, can you improve this for me? And it organizes this into libraries. We're kind of moving beyond into agentic workflows now. We have out-of-the-box agents. Some of those are multi-agentic, very deep. We're beyond simple and complex RAG and even simple reasoning at this point. We're into fairly sophisticated agentic workflows, but we also have a wizard that allows you to just build your own agent through a simple UI with no code, and you can pick from templates that are there or begin to define your own from scratch, test the results, have it improve the extraordinarily complex, kind of prompt of an agent for you as a sort of easy way to make agents work. And then because it's not all about, like, everyone would call themselves a single source of truth, which is a fallacy. And so it's not about that. It's about connecting data. If you have to be able to at least, you can't necessarily always centralize the data in one place, but if you can at least connect it all, see it all, then you can draw inferences from that historic data, from those lessons learned. And so through MCP server and client, which we, this past summer, we made those available with Egnyte for the first time. And this allows us to begin to talk to across different platforms and tools that are MCP capable. So as an example, and Justin was present for this, we did a quick demo video recently at our global summit in San Francisco, where we showed a person who's having a chat inside of Egnyte's Copilot and just sees an email come in, ping them. So they say, okay, check Outlook, see what this contractor wants. The contractor wants a response to an RFI that's overdue. Without leaving Egnyte, okay, check Procore, see where we're at in this when the contractor's got this, this other site that the contractor's using. And so it, comes back, and not only has it come back with an answer, but it's come back with an extraordinarily detailed answer explaining, well, actually that particular RFI was addressed when the ceiling height was changed 2 months ago. These other couple of RFIs are also affected potentially by that change. Would you like me to draft a response to the contractor that explains all of this in detail? Yes, please. Does so. Send it off through Outlook. I've not even left my file server. I'm still just working away, and I'm handling this information and processing fairly complex requests that would have required, at least human involvement to author in the past. And so this is possible now. Like, this is not tomorrow. This is today when properly configured. And next year, who knows? It might be A2A frameworks, where we just announced that we're part of, the new Microsoft. I forget the exact name. This new agentic framework with Microsoft. Google's been talking about A2A. There's been a lot, discussed that's coming, and we don't even know where that will go. It's interesting. We're LLM agnostic. We can change the engine inside of our Copilot at any time. Like right now, we're on Gemini 2.5 Flash, but we'll change to something else if it's better. That's how we work. In fact, we have a tool now that allows you to change your own LLM on the fly if you're so equipped, which allows you to compare and contrast responses as you're working with your in-house chatbot. Justin touched on integrations. I mentioned it at the beginning of the call. I'm just showing this here now. We've kind of hit this tipping point where this year alone, I think we've had or are in process of having at least a dozen new AEC integration partners come on board that are building integrations with Egnyte. Egnyte's not even having to build these necessarily anymore. And I think it's just due to, the expansion of Egnyte in the AEC space. But we're very open. Like, I would say, bring it, build it, or buy it from us. But like these tools, some of these tools you see on the screen compete with some of our functionality. I mean, we have, a specifications analyst, a contracts analyst, a code book agent that's relatively new, and a proposals coordinator coming online. Like, we have agents that, if you look at this list and you're familiar with these, some of these things are going to be quite familiar. That's fine. Like, we totally integrate with these tools. We're open to do that. We have open APIs for everything, even our AI. And then we're building things too. If we see a popular enough use case, particularly if it's something that applies not just to AEC, but across the broader spectrum of business operations, then we're building it. So it's kind of a fun time seeing all this stuff come together. With that, I want to give it back to Justin to close us out on just where you're at in this journey. What do you see as next?
Yeah. So, like I said, we're just a couple of years into our kind of AI journey, and about 6 years into our cloud journey. And so as we kind of look to the future, I think one of the first things is those deeper integrations. We're looking to connect more of our data to the Egnyte platform, and leverage the tools, leverage the AI tools to search more information. Integration with VLK, our project management data. Potentially, you mentioned the MCP server. That's potentially on the horizon for us. But connecting all our data sources, more connected our data is, the more powerful the AI insights become, and the more we can automate those routine tasks. Second is just our continued AI evolution. We're still learning, obviously. We only have two softwares that are really fully implemented. Others we've been testing out, but we're learning something by each thing of how they can improve our processes, how they can integrate into our workflows. But again, migrating to the cloud has given us the flexibility to experiment, test these new tools, and scale what works without massive infrastructure changes. Last is the cultural maturity. It really comes down to basically changing how we work. Obviously, we're seeing a lot of adoption, but getting there required a lot of peer-to-peer learning. We were doing a lot of top-down training, but actually having peer-to-peer training has worked a lot better. Having workshops has worked better. But getting people engaged with the platform, over the shoulder, small groups, has really kind of shown them use cases and the power that AI can do, but also just changing the culture on what you do with your additional time. When you can automate those tasks, when AI can give you the answer 5 times faster, what do you do with that additional time? And so again, focusing more on the quality and things that you might not have gotten to before. And last, if you're just starting to think about moving to the cloud or hesitating because it feels like a massive undertaking, kind of here's some of my thoughts. It's really not as hard as you think. With the right platform, transitions can be seamless. Focus on finding the right solution that matches how your team works, how your firm is organized, and not one that focuses or forces you to change workflows to match the technology. As you've kind of heard from our journey, benefits compound over time. This didn't happen overnight. We didn't flip a switch. We were on the cloud and everybody was using AI. Like, it's taken time to get things set up correctly, get our data organized correctly, implementing AI, training, identifying use cases, things. All of it kind of is built on the last step, and so you have to start to get going. And then last, I would say quality and innovations, they're not opposites. We're quality first. Some people assume we be conservative with technology because we are quality first, but really the opposite is true. The right technology enables higher quality and giving our teams time to focus on what matters. So the cloud infrastructure is not about cutting corners, it's creating space for excellence. So with that, Nick, Naz, I'll turn it back over to you. I think we have time now for some Q&A.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much. Very inspiring. Thanks for sharing the story. Yeah, truly educational and insightful. So I have a couple questions. Actually, my first question is about the ROI. You mentioned that. So because generally with AEC adopting technology, it's really hard to measure that ROI because of the indirect effects of the tools and technologies or the long life cycle of the projects. So, so with Egnyte, do you have a system, or with other technologies and tools that you use in the office? So maybe you mentioned that opening new offices, so less costs of the IT and all that. So can you tell us a little bit more about like this? How do you do that? Is it something that you always do at VLK Architects, like going back and measuring that ROI? Is it something that you do annually, or yeah, I'm personally very curious to learn about how you do it.
Yeah, obviously, yes, we want to get a return on our investments. We don't track each one, and some of them are difficult for us to track based on how we measure our time, how we bill. But we definitely, on the infrastructure side, yes, we're seeing huge ROI. As we've grown, obviously, we were growing when we made the migration to the cloud. I don't think that we anticipated having 3 new offices after moving to Egnyte, but that has proven to be a substantial impact on cost reduction of infrastructure. And The other part coming out of COVID, having people working remote and having that flexibility to work anywhere and have the same experience on your desktop that you would whether you're in the office, outside the office, working in a remote cabin, or in Europe, or just working from home because your kid is sick. Yeah, I'm pointing at you, Aaron.
Thanks, Gabby.
So those are kind of those things. We have seen we've been starting tracking with some of the modeling AI tool that we leverage, as well as Egnyte. And we're seeing some back-end impact on project quality, primarily around cost savings. So the first couple of projects that we completed last summer, we saw about a 40% reduction in cost issues coming up on a project compared to similar projects prior to using these AI systems. So there definitely are metrics that we're evaluating to making sure that they're working as intended. But a lot of it, and Aaron may speak about this a little bit, but at their global summit, Vineet, Egnyte CEO, talked about impact on investment. And I think that's really a good way to think about it, especially the AI. There can be ROI if you want. You can save 30% of time. You can put less people on a project. There's a lot of things like that, but a lot of that is just maybe bottom line dollars, and we're looking at it as quality. And so what is the impact on people's lives, on the amount of time they're using it to impact a client? Can they go home 30 minutes earlier every day because instead of working 10-hour days, maybe they're working 9-hour days because AI is helping them get to results faster. So those are the types of things that we're really looking at.
Beautiful. I love it. And then you mentioned that your transition with Egnyte to cloud was seamless. So did you do anything on your end? So how did you make that transition seamless and zero friction? So was it like the data preparation or anything that you did, and also Egnyte, I'm sure, helped maybe with part of it?
Yeah. So there are a couple of things. Yeah, as we kind of approached kind of life cycle of our infrastructure and started contemplating a cloud, there were things that we were already starting to do with our data to migrate to the cloud. Primarily just restructuring it, knowing that we would be able to control user group access and giving people the right data at the right time when they needed it. And so kind of tweaking kind of our folder structure in a way that when we moved to the cloud, people were already trained on it and it would be easy to manage and kind of a seamless transition. I would say the biggest part, I mentioned customer service on Egnyte side, their implementation team, but we also have an IT partner, Rooted Construction Technology, that they have worked with Egnyte. They're an Egnyte partner, and so they have been through a couple of migrations previously, and they were able to give us a lot of insight and help us kind of hold our hands through the implementation process. It took about 3 months from kind of kickoff to going live to migrate our data and kind of get everything set up on the governance side. But like I said, people knew of some of the features. People knew we were moving to the cloud, but when they walked in Monday morning, it was the same environment that they saw on Friday with the map letter drives and things like that. And so if they didn't want to use the features yet, they didn't have to, but it still looked the same and operated the same.
I'll add to that though. Like there are always things to figure out, or bumps in the road, or challenges, or every IT setup is different in every company in the world. And so you're not saying that everything was always perfect behind the scenes, but that there was always a dialogue, hopefully, between VLK and Egnyte to get that aligned.
Yeah, actually, that was one of my other questions. That what was the main challenges, not necessarily with Egnyte, but with this transition? The success stories is inspiring and wonderful, but I'm sure there were big challenges and hurdles in the way. So what were some of those things that were harder than what you imagined at the beginning?
I mean, honestly, I mean, Aaron mentioned earlier, but I think one of the biggest things was change management. That because it was so seamless, it made it harder for people to realize, oh, I don't have to drag this file over to Dropbox to share it. Like I can share it directly from there. And so, I mean, it took months to get people engaged of knowing exactly what the features were. And we're still going through that. I mean, there's like I still run across people in the office that don't know that there's an Egnyte app and you have basically access to the entire server on your phone. And there's features in the Egnyte app that can like download photos automatically when you take it based on geolocation of your project site. So there's features like that like the key people, obviously the people that are in the field every day have been trained and have been using it. But the people that aren't in the field every day, that they go out once a quarter or something like that, they may have forgotten that, or when they were trained on it, they didn't use that feature right away, and so then they've forgotten about it when they do go to the job site. So I think that's probably the biggest thing is just basically taking advantage of all of the features.
Wonderful. Yeah, 80% adoption is very impressive. So congratulations. That's definitely very impressive. So wonderful. Thank you so much. Any closing thought, any advice for companies that are still on the fence, still debating whether they should, do this transition or not?
Aaron, I kind of gave some of my thoughts, but
I mean,
I don't know if you have any.
I'll throw out two things. One is you talked about it not being as hard as you might think. I would say it's also not all or nothing, right? You do this in,
Yep.
How do you eat an elephant, right? It's like you do this in steps, right? And so this has been the same premise with generative design or computational design or BIM, before that, right? It's like it's not all or nothing. So think about what your firm really needs, right? And move forward. And the other is this, you were just talking about, it's thinking about people, process, and technology. You were thinking about how it's not really the technology that's the limiting factor many times anymore. And Nick Naz, we've shared before, like Mickey McManus's slide about the jazz age of AI. Like we're at this point where we keep thinking we have to like train AI or get it to do things for us. But honestly, getting through the sort of people and process hurdle might require AI helping us train people in new ways. Like I think we're in this where humans are sometimes going to be the holdup here in terms of getting good rollout of technology. So be thinking about how everybody's got to be open to learn, or you look for those people with the attitude and aptitude within your firm to take on these new initiatives and sort of model the behavior for the rest of the firm to follow.
Wonderful.
Yeah, the only thing I would add, just to me, just having been using Egnyte for 4 years, like the idea of just basically anywhere you have internet access, you have access to your data. You don't have to click extra buttons to log into a VPN. You don't have to set up back-end infrastructure for VPNs and things like that. To me, it's kind of a no-brainer, especially if you have people that are working remote or you have multiple offices. To me, it's time to do it. Even if you have no intention of like integrating AI or anything like that, just for that flexibility of workforce, being able to work with the data wherever they are, is, to me, it makes the case.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you, Justin and Aaron, for sharing your stories. So the session gave us a very clear picture of what a cloud transition actually looks like inside a firm, the challenges, the wins, and how it can set up AEC firms for better data strategy and AI-powered workflows. So let's keep the dialogue going, because as projects and files move to the cloud, the firms that treat data as a strategic asset will be the ones that lead the next chapter of AEC. Thanks again for being here, and see you at the next aec+tech Talk. Have a great day.